And we are live. 1 second. Hello, everybody. Well, this is Dean, Elsa Sofia Morote, and we have a prestige invited or alumni Heather Barr. We also will have coming soon, or the director Heat Grant coming in a few minutes. So Heather, thank you very much for being here. Heather is right now directly from Pakistan. So I don't know what time is there. I think 9 p.m. But thank you very much for making your time and effort to come here. Heather is an associate director of the Women's Rights Division at the Human Rights Watch. She has researched human rights in countries like Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Papua Guinea, South Korea, with several issues like including child marriage, girls' education, women's access to healthcare, domestic violence, and online gender-based violence. So this is a new thing, online violence, that few people have talked. So I don't want to take more time, but I would like, please, Heather, to tell us what are you doing and how you got from being a graduate from Masters of Criminal Justice to the position you are right now.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks for inviting me. And I think this might be the first time I've been invited back to John Jay. So it's much appreciated. So I was a student there quite a while ago. I think I graduated at the end of 1993 from the Criminal Justice Master's Program. So obviously that's a while ago. I'll just tell you briefly sort of where I went after the program. I went almost straight away from John Jay to law school. So I went to Columbia Law School in New York, and then after law school, I went to work at a New York City legal organization, which is called the Urban Justice Center. And I became a prisoner's rights lawyer there. So I litigated representing people with psychosocial disabilities who were in the New York City jail system. Spent a lot of time at Rikers Island interviewing people and representing them. And this was during the Giuliani administration. So it was a class action lawsuit against Mayor Giuliani and the Department of Corrections and 5 or 6 other agencies in the city. So I stayed in that job, I think, for about 7 years, and then went back to school again, went to the London School of Economics and did an LLM in human rights law. And after that, I joined the United Nations and went to Burundi in Africa, and then to Afghanistan, working on criminal legal reform in both of those countries, as well as human rights. And then in 2011, I left the United Nations and joined Human Rights Watch, originally working specifically on Afghanistan. I'd already moved to Afghanistan with the United Nations, and so I carried on, stayed there and worked for Human Rights Watch for a couple of years. Until in 2014, I moved over to the Women's Rights Division, and that's when I've been doing some of the work that you mentioned, Dr. Morote. So yeah, that's sort of my story. And yeah, John Jay was sort of one of the first places that I started studying things and thinking about legal reform and prisoners' rights and things like that. So thanks.
Thank you very much. I mean, this is you have an amazing trajectory. You know, from the Rikers Island, from the to right now you are in the human rights. I mean, women human rights. It's an amazing trajectory. Do you have like a law background as well? Because I heard you were working also in the law area.
Yeah, I went to Columbia Law School after John Jay and got my Juris Doctorate. And then an LLM at London School of Economics. So
that was such an enrichment experience. So there is we also have a doctoral degree who have joined with criminal justice and Juris Doctor as well. So also I have here our director, Dr. Graham. I want to welcome him. He is or current director of the criminal justice. He also was, before being a director of criminal justice, before being in the academia, he was a director of research of the Policy Executive Research Forum, leading Washington, D.C. organization dedicated to advance the law enforcement and crime prevention internationally. So good morning, good morning, Dr. Grant.
Thank you for having me, even though I was late. I do apologize. I was coming in from commuting in campus and totally got all messed up. So I do apologize, Heather. It's great to hear from you and all the amazing things that you're doing. I'm just curious when you think of the rights issues that you now abroad, how do you feel they compare to the human rights issues faced here in the United States in our criminal justice system? Does things stand out at you? I know they're vastly different in sort of qualitatively, but what do you feel stands out for you?
Well, it's interesting that you ask. I mean, one thing that stands out, obviously, is the rate of incarceration in the United States. So when we work on criminal legal reform in other countries, I think we try hard to point to the US as an example of what not to do. And this is a challenge because there are often lots of programs funded by the US government that are doing the opposite. They're flying in, you know, ex-police officers, ex-prison wardens, and so on from the US and having them train people like the Afghan government on, you know, how things ought to be done. And you know, we've really tried to be an antidote to that and to talk about how, you know, the US, I mean, not just in terms of the rate of incarceration, but also things like gun ownership, gun violence, you know, racial disparities, these types of issues. You know, we've really tried to look for better examples and often examples within the same region of practices that are good. I think the US criminal legal system is not one that I would encourage anyone to model anything on.
It's hard for us to be shining city on a hill, isn't it? when criminal justice abroad, considering what we look like home. We're number one, our incarceration, exactly what we want to look up, you know, to be. So did you say also, so you're best in the Bangladesh region of Pakistan? Do you have any of that? Have you done that in your history as well?
Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. Maybe it's better if we all mute, but you were asking about if I've worked in Bangladesh, Pakistan?
Yes. Bangladesh, yeah. You have.
Yeah. So I've looked at child marriage, girls' education, issues like this in these countries, which are less related specifically to the criminal legal system, but still relate to legal systems because you're looking at things like marriage laws and how marriages are solemnized and issues about access to education. So once you start studying international human rights law, you realize that everything is a legal issue on some level. It's interesting. I was thinking about the fact that John Jay is still called the John Jay College of Criminal Justice. It's interesting because at Human Rights Watch in the last couple of years, we've stopped using the term criminal justice and we talk about the criminal legal system instead, because I think our feeling is that this system frequently does not deliver justice.
I hear that argument has been made many times here, and you know, it's hard to get around that. But you know, the argument can be made that we strive for better justice and to push the field in a direction that can actually live up to its name better. Do you know what I mean? I know it's not easily done, but it's sort of at the basis of what we have you has the dean made you aware of our new human rights program here? We're just launching. I don't think we've yet, have we, Dean? So we'll still have the Master in Criminal Justice.
Yeah, we have a new human rights program that will be. So yeah. So going back to our, we have a master's in human rights program, and in 2 weeks we actually will interview the director as well. So I want to go back to the criminal justice. Heather, do you remember what kind of courses or internships or activities you did that were most useful for what you're doing right now? Something that you remember very that was very worth it for what you're doing?
Like for me, it's very different than Heather, but for me, a lot of my early work was with crime prevention partnerships. So I was in communities like Williamsburg, where I now live, Bushwick, Jamaica, and other parts of these that were hard hit, not just crime, substance abuse issues. And so I was working, bringing gaps between the police and the community to, as a mass student, to improve these problems. And it's experience that I was able to take me for the rest of my career, because if you're going to achieve that idea of justice, you have to have that connection between community and criminal justice. It's never easily done, but I learned a lot through that experience, and how the police and community receive each other, the complexities in that, and then how you bring in evidence-based strategies to effectively change communities, make them work better. And it's something that I do to this day.
Good. So what about Heather?
Well, so I think probably like a lot of your students, I was working full-time while attending school full-time, which didn't leave very much time for externships or extracurriculars or anything really. I was a caseworker in a shelter for homeless women with co-occurring psychosocial disabilities and substance use during that time. So, but I think one of the things that I really remember about John Jay is you know, for someone like me who's not from a law enforcement background at all, it was a very unique opportunity to sort of be around a group of people that I would never normally have met. You know, police officers, for the most part, it felt like were the students in the program at that time. I don't know if that's still the case now. And yeah, it was fascinating, and you know, everyone was nice, but it was also quite radicalizing for me. I think, you know, these were earlier days in the discussions about prison abolition and police abolition, and you know, and I definitely got a lot of kind of food for thought in listening to discussions in class and outside of class at John Jay.
So when you say radicalizing, was it the a negative perspective from some of this, or just the ability to be exposed to all of these different perspectives, actually with the desire to go into policing or in the field already, that it stimulated you?
I think I was pretty shocked by the worldview that a lot of people in law enforcement, including some of the professors, seem to be coming from. I guess one of the questions I have about John Jay is, you know, I mean, there's been this kind of reckoning on racism in a lot of organizations in the last couple of years, including my own organization, Human Rights Watch. And I'm curious about how that's affected John Jay and this program in particular, because one of the things I remember, and one of the things that was wonderful for me about John Jay was the diversity of the students who came from, you know, all different kind of backgrounds and largely pretty working class backgrounds and so on. But that wasn't really matched by the professors, who were for the most part white men, and who weren't people who, you know, for example, themselves had experiences of incarceration, or of people in their families being incarcerated, or people or coming from communities that have been affected by negative aspects of the criminal legal system. So I'm curious about whether the program has changed and whether there are more of those voices and more critical voices.
100%. Yes. I'm not missed years you were here, but sir has been an innovation in that department, and a conscious one. We're not only in terms of the diversity of the faculty, but you know, actually been going a major process of reviewing the entire curriculum to make sure that perspective is adequately built up throughout our major, our master's program, but also as a certificate now in race and justice, which we're hoping to turn completely online in the coming year, to really put up to the forefront of sort of some of what John Day does, the importance of these issues, and looking at them from, police and community, of course, prisons, providing skills for social advocacy is a part of this new certificate, and the like, and certainly not just in that certificate. We have a diversity, but certainly more the entire distribution of our faculty. A lot of our faculty are practitioners in the field as was in your day, but they also bring to the table the experience of having grown up and lived the experience of diversity. So that's been a needed change for sure.
Dr. Grant, could you when you talk, it's like a little echo. When you talk, there's an echo. So you think you probably go out, in and out. There is something in the.
I can do that right now.
Yeah.
And you see, I'm probably very whitewashed as well.
Yeah.
That's lights in my office. I apologize for that, but
yeah.
Let me leave. Come back. I'll see what I can do.
So okay, so let's continue with Heather. Heather, so we were talking about the change of diversity in the criminal justice program. That we certainly we have increased the diversity, and also it was interesting to me that you don't come from the police department, because a lot of people think criminal justice have to be people who come from the police or the workforce, because it's really open to all of us, all the students who are interested in this topic. So what things do you know? What do you think a student who is about to finish this program should be getting prepared of? What skills do you think they will need in order to go to the world and start looking for a job with a master's in criminal justice?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on what kind of job they're looking for. I mean, it seemed when I was there, like a lot of people were already working in law enforcement or were planning to work in law enforcement, and it was a way to advance their careers in law enforcement. But it seemed like there were also people who, like me, were looking to move on to law school or to academia. Some people did. I guess in terms of what I would be looking for, sort of when looking at CVs, would be, how people can sort of link their education with some life experience, with some work experience. Like if they've had a job and that's related, where they've learned related skills at the same time, if they've had life experience which is relevant to the kind of work that they want to do. Also, I think I'm always charmed by an amazing cover letter. The best cover letter I ever read was one that somebody wrote me about her grandmother. It was this amazing cover letter about how when her grandmother had been a refugee and had fled, she'd used Human Rights Watch documents to prove her asylum claim and so on. So I think, a CV is a place to put down the dry facts, but a cover letter is a chance to kind of tell a compelling personal story. So those are some of the kind of things that I would suggest to people to think about, as well as drawing on life experience. There might be things that you don't even think of as having been work experience, but that are still relevant and belong on a CV.
Mute. We see now what a student who's about to leave the program will have. Professor Grant, tell us about what kind of skills you're looking for a prospective student, a student who is thinking about to go to criminal justice. What the student should be doing in order to be accepted in this prestigious program.
Well, we're looking sort of a lot of what Heather was saying, but more specifically, critical. First is the passion for making a difference in the world and related to criminal justice, but also the more some evidence of the critical thinking skills that they've developed over particularly in their senior years. That's not just in terms of research methods or statistics, but that's in the written word, critical thing, ability to break down problems diagnosis. We're looking for, it's hard to show that immediately in your application, but certainly in the cover letter, we look for some kind of that application between a desire to be in criminal justice and not just to go on and become a police officer or a corrections officer. It is that, but it's also showing that you're able to think critically about the system and issues of social impact is really what we're trying to hone in on. And again, writing is a big part of that demonstration in the application process and once the program. So the practice they can get in the skills of writing and the research that I find. We offer some supplemental classes in the statistics and the research methods when they're in to try to build that base if needed. But they're much better off if they come to the table with those in hand.
Good. So, Heatherine, that's in the same team. When you go back to when you were a prospective student and thinking about the Masters in Criminal Justice, what things you think you will wish to know before going to this Masters?
That's for Heather, right?
Yeah, Heather, you're mute.
Okay. No, I was just checking if you were talking to me. So I think, I really rushed through the program. Like I did the program in a year and a half and sort of sprinted through it because I was afraid of like running out of money or not finishing it or I was trying, or maybe I was trying to show off. I was a ninth grade dropout. So I was trying to like prove that I could get a degree. But I think if I was doing it over again, I would go more slowly and engage a bit more and like, sort of try to explore the ideas rather than just passing the term papers, if you see what I mean. I think that's something I would do different. And then, yeah, I think I would also have, it's good to hear that you have sort of a more diverse group of thinkers as well as more ethnic diversity. And I think if I was doing the program again, I would sort of seek out some of those voices and think about that as well as just the specific topic when choosing classes, so yeah.
And one thing I always like to say, even if you look at your career as an example, you didn't come with knowing exactly where you're gonna end up. It looks like you evolved. You knew you wanted to make a difference, but you didn't know exactly which way you wanted to go about that. Is that fair to say? And so that's part of that critical thinking I was thinking, and what I always, it sounds so when I ask this question with our students, I always say to be open to the different perspectives that they get. And our program is very interdisciplinary. So yes, you have the practitioners, which makes our program special, I think, to have that voice. But we also have, a wide presentation of the social sciences and different perspectives. So they come in open to seeing more. They may have come in wanting to be a police officer, which is a great thing, and we commend that. But they may see, okay, you know what I'm more interested in social advocacy around these issues, mass incarceration or justice. We have fellowships with the Innocence Project, for example, a different way of getting around, and maybe that path goes towards Human Rights Watch, one day. Do you know what I mean? Like we want to give the foundation and of what are the issues, what concerns, and then sort of hope that student will sort of their own portfolio of that to be whatever it is that they ultimately end up becoming. So that requires, a lot of what you're recommending to have there. I mean, just taking in more of the different perspectives, not just being rushing through the program. We do try to encourage our students through in a timely fashion. So I don't want to like I'm going against policy, but all that is ultimately what's going to make the best criminal justice professional in the future, criminal justice and social justice professionals of the future, I think.
Thank you very much, Kit. Heather, I was thinking of a student, no? Because when you came to the program, you already have the vision that you want to go to the law area, correct? So we have students who decided to go to a doctoral programs, and we have students who go to the field. In what moment do when you went to the master's, you already were thinking, I'm going to have a Juris Doctor after, or wasn't the process? Tell us a little about the process when you make a decision.
Yeah, so I
Go to
didn't really
graduate school.
I didn't really have a plan. I was, as I said, I was working in this shelter full time while studying full time, and yeah, I didn't really know what I would do. And then I had this kind of jolt from the heavens one day when I was there. Used to be this horrible welfare office called the Waverly Welfare Center. It was on 14th Street. It's gone now. It's turned into like a discount shoe store or something. But it was the most awful place. And I used to have to take my clients on welfare appointments all the time, my clients from the shelters. And so I'd sat there like for about 5 hours one day with a client who he was quite ill and wasn't very fluent in English. And after about 5 hours, they called us up to this counter to tell her that she'd brought the wrong documents and she'd have to go away and come back another day. And so the person was sort of shouting at her through this plexiglass window, and she didn't understand what they were saying. And I was like, "Excuse me, what did you say?" And the person behind the counter said, "You know, who are you? What are you, her lawyer? I'm talking to her." And I was like, oh. Anyway, and yeah, so that was kind of the moment when I thought the problem
when you decided, no, I will be the lawyer.
Yeah, I thought the client is not the problem. The welfare center is the problem. And if you want to fix the welfare center, you need a law degree. I've been thinking about doing an MSW, and that was the end of my MSW plans. I decided I needed to sue the welfare center instead.
Hello, I am frozen. Oh, hi. I was thinking I went frozen for a second, but thank you very much. So let's go now to the last word of advice for our director HIT grant to our prospective students and our students who are leaving soon to our program. What would be your last message for them? You're mute.
This is a day. It's one of those days. I want to emphasize what I already said. And I think because Heather is the perfect example of what can happen when you come into our program with an open mind as to what exactly you want, where exactly you're going with your degree, and making sure that you approach your studies with us that way and get those different perspectives and different skills, different information. To be able to make you equipped to make that kind of a decision about your career. It was true of my own pathway as well. So I feel it's very important. Yes, we want to encourage many of our students to become the direct practitioners that even to this day, hey, Heather, many of them do come in knowing that I want to be police officers, they want to be corrections, whatever it may be. That is great. And we can certainly give important information and background for that, but also be open to where else a criminal justice career could take you.
Good. Thank you very much, Kit. And Heather, what would be your advice for our students who are to graduate now coming on at the end of this semester?
Yeah, I guess I would just say, I mean, going from John Jay College to Columbia Law School was with quite a culture shock. Like I definitely felt very much like a fish out of water. Everybody had gone to Princeton and Harvard together, and I had gone to community college. And but I guess what I would say to your students, if any of them are considering, you know, trying to go to a school like that, is that those people are not any smarter than you. They just went to a lot of schools that told them that they're wonderful all the time.
That's right.
But having some life experiences is actually considerably more valuable than being told your whole life that you're wonderful. Thanks.
I love that. Yeah.
I think that's a great advice. I absolutely love it. You know, because that's true. Sometimes
Oh, we're losing you.
You're muted, Doctor.
Muted, Dean.
I think this is some great advice. You know, some people, the students feel maybe they don't fit for that, but it's true. You all of you have the same skills, and then you can do it. Everything you can do it. And I really appreciate Heather Barr for coming here for alumni. I know it's a lot sacrifice coming at this time in Pakistan. And our director, thank you very much for today, and thank you for all your advice. And I will see you everybody next week. So let me say goodbye, everybody.